Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another interesting episode of Finding Out with Special Needs. I see you all. I see Lucy O'Neill. I see Dosh Benny. I see Vicky Wilson. Welcome, Joan Teaser. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. Today's we've tagged every first Sunday of the month industry focus. So today we'll be talking to two professionals in the field of occupational therapy. And then when we talk about special needs, we every time we gather together on Find Up with Special Needs, it's a time for us all to learn, relearn, unlearn, or however you want to call it. Learning must take place. So today we'll be having two interesting people. I've had chats with them back and forth, and I promise you it's going to be an exciting one today. In special needs, remember, we are on finding out with special needs, and we all we try to do with finding out with special needs is to break everything down, whatever the topic is, as long as it's termed special education or special needs, you find help on every episode. So today's episode is on occupational therapy. It's actually tagged special edition and it's industry focus. So we're looking into what occupational therapy is and the service providers. Remember that specialist has to do with a multidisciplinary approach, which means everyone's hands must be on deck. Everyone is involved. We have when we're having an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, we're having the meeting. We are supposed to have as many professionals as possible involved in that meeting, and we could have as many people as possible. So depending on the age of the child could also be a part of IEP meeting. We could have a speech therapist, a specialist educator, a general educator, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist. You could have a speech therapist. I don't know if I mentioned that already. You could have a social worker, depending on what is available at your so the part of the world you are in. But ideal thing is everyone. The parent, did I mention the parent? Very importantly, the parents. I think I mentioned about 8 individuals, but we have as many people that are able to provide services for the child to make the child function at ease or at best, in life. So today I'm so excited to have two individuals who will be breaking down what occupational therapy is to us and what they do. My first guest today is the person of, let me see who's available. Ola is available. Great. Hello, Mr. Ola.
Good afternoon, good evening over there.
Yes, good evening, wherever you are. Good afternoon, good evening. We are meant to have another person joining us. Her name is Damilola. I'm sure she'll be with us in a few minutes. But while we wait for Damilola, I want you to please introduce yourself. Remember when we spoke earlier on, I said on finding out with special needs, we don't hold anything back. We say it as it is, and we try to make sure that we all learn together and help to shed more light on whatever is not clear to our guests, to our audiences. So we have a number of people here. They're saying hello to you, they're saying welcome to you. And I want to thank each and every one of them for gathering together with us today. So if you have any question, please start putting your question down for Mr. Ola is ready to bring us into the world of occupational therapy and what they do and what is meant to be the standard practice in different parts of the world and what we can do here in Nigeria too. But Mr. Ola, please could you introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Everybody do what they do because they love it, I guess. Although it's not that true, but okay. Olatunji Solomon Ola. Many people actually have problems with my name because it has so much of comorbid similarities. So my surname is Ola, like that. So and others are my names. Well, the first thing I want to say is I sincerely wanted to study medicine, just like an average Nigerian student or young boy then. So my father was like, have you heard about this particular profession? Because then I wanted to go to Lautech. I finished from Federal Government College, Ogbomoso. So I wanted to go to Lautech because it's just a cross border to my secondary school back then. And I did the jump. I went for the post jump, and all these things that happens in Nigeria. So for that reason, I wasn't taken. And my father just said, "Have you heard about occupational therapy before?" And I said, "I've never heard about it." Okay, let's see what it's all about. And sincerely, that was how I started some 11 years ago. So I went to the school, and I don't know, I just found a bit of ambience. It's not even a university. It's like a monotechnic. So, and it was an era where diploma isn't really celebrated. And we were told, okay, you're going to earn a professional diploma. And well, it's medically related. It was started or organized or founded by Psychiatric Hospital Yaba. So I felt, okay, since I'm still in the medical line, I think I can actually go with it. And that was how I grew and grew in the profession. So from Nigeria to India and from India to Northern Cyprus. That is the summary of everything. Um,
Wow.
Process actually, I wanted to. There are some periods where, just like every other person, I actually wanted to leave the profession because looking back at lots of hospitals in Nigeria, they don't even have occupational therapy department. Even my family don't know what occupational therapy is, and it was a bit of lots of talk, lots of family issues. Let me put it like that. What are you studying? What are you going to do afterwards? And as a first year student, then I can't even explain very well. I only have this anatomy and physiology in my mind. So I go, they say, but you're not doing anatomy, you're not doing physiology. I say, but we do it as part of our course, and these other medical jargons. So, but as it proceeded in my second year, we started going to the laboratory. We started seeing dissecting of human cadavers. We started seeing some few clinical, practical life sessions in hospitals. And I started to feel, okay, this is actually what I want. Then my passion, along with some of the things I found out in the process, grew and it just continued growing. And a point came when I actually saw that there are lots of international opportunities attached to being an occupational therapist. And sincerely, who doesn't want to travel out of Nigeria?
I was going to ask
So
you that question, that why did you leave us? Why did you run away and left us on the road? You need
you people are not paying me enough now.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding, but then we are still growing in Nigeria generally, and it's really difficult to gain your ground, especially as a young
True.
person in the profession. So you need people who have been there, people who have the facility, both theoretically and practically, and who are currently solving future problems, so that you can know that what you are doing is actually in line with what the international world is doing. Sister Dami, she's my sister, so I'm sorry we are a bit informal. So,
Yeah.
No,
and
you're good. You're good. Really, I say to people that on finding out with special needs, it's not like an exam or a board certification. No, it's just that we want to talk about what all we do in special needs all about, and just shed more light on different aspects of what we're doing. So please, it's okay. We're going to have a good time. Thankfully, and Damilala is your sister. I believe I'm your sister too because we're this field together. So let's have a family meeting, and every
Yeah.
other person listen to us too is in this family. So we're here to learn. So thank you,
yeah,
thank you. I had something I wanted to ask you, but we had Damilola coming. Welcome, Damilola. Thank you for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. We
Thank
are
you.
glad
Thank
you
you.
were
Thank you.
able
Good
to.
afternoon.
Mr. Ola just introduced himself and he told us a few things. And I had a few questions when he was speaking. But before we go to the question, I'd want you to please introduce yourself, why you do what you do, and just generally just a brief introduction of who you are and why you are in this field. What
Okay.
led you to this field?
Okay. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here again. Thank you so much, Lola Aneke. This is every time I get to talk about special educational needs or my profession, what I do, I find it so I find it so encouraging. I find it so exciting to talk about this. So I am Damilola Banwo Oyalaja. I had my degree in occupational therapy and my master's program in psychology. I work with children with special needs, not only children with special needs, I work with people with disabilities basically. I started off my career as an occupational therapy assistant at volunteering at Mochukwe Cole Memorial Treatment Home School at Koka from September 2010 all the way to January, and then I started work officially January. Yeah, but I started as a volunteer in 2010. That makes it 10 years this year that I've been, working with people with disabilities. Thank you. So yes, currently I am the director, the co-founder of KTCKYC Educational Consult, an academy. Our KTCKYC Academy is kickstarting soon. The reason we started KTCKYC was because I was having this discussion with Lola Aneke a couple of years ago, and I said, at that time I was working as a special educator in a school, on the island. I told Lola, I said, see, quite a number of us in special needs are working on this part of Lagos or with a particular population in Lagos. What about people who can afford all of this? What about people who really cannot, who have individuals or students with special needs in their classrooms but do not know how to go about it? What about teachers in the low income areas? What do they do? How do they cope with this? And she was like, Dami, that's something we're working on. And she told me about what she does with the special needs conferences and all that. And that was something to jump onto, as an individual, to that we can always provide solutions, we can always give answers, we can always help in our little capacity to ensure that people, like children, students, learners with disabilities are learning as much as they can, even if it involves improvisation. You don't have to have all the gadgets as it is in the developed world. However, how can you improvise? How can you make teaching and learning accessible for individuals, for students with disabilities? And that was how KTCKYC educational consult started off. So we had our first outreach in Ikorodu and Surulere. And believe you me, the Ikorodu outreach, we had almost 300 educators in the room. 300 educators, and that was so eye-opening that this information needs to get to a lot of people. Eventually, we continued since then. 2018, we continued, and then we've been doing our virtual trainings for teachers of students with disabilities, special needs teachers.
Oh, I think we lost.
She's coming back.
Damila, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
We lost you for a bit. You can go on.
Oh, okay. So, for teachers generally, we get to talk to them about,
Wow, I think her network is poor. When she gets back, we'll just let her continue for where she stopped. Yeah, so back to you, Mr. Ola.
All right.
I know you said you wanted to study. You said you wanted to study medicine, and then you got in for occupational therapy. And you said something that was quite profound to me. You said you actually you did a lot of medical. What medical students do in the lab, like having to open up a cadaver and all of that. And I know that Lola said something about improvisation. So this is one question that I need also to clarify. We understand that in this part of the world, where are you? Let our audience hear where you are. What part of the world are you in? Where are you located right now?
I'm in Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a country that is not recognized by the world, but only recognized by Turkey. Yeah, a very peaceful island, very, very peaceful island, contrary to some of the things being circulated on the media that students shouldn't be sent to Northern Cyprus. This place is one of the best place to be. They don't even have any industry. So it's 95% natural environment. And it's an opportunity to come and lecture here because India is a very stressful country for medical practitioners or medical students. But before I even go there, let me talk a little bit about um, the confusion people have about occupational therapy in terms of the question you asked that we did some cadavers and the like.
Yes,
Occupational
yes. I wanted
therapy,
to answer that question, and I'll tell you
yes,
why when you're done.
yes. The foundation of occupational therapy is not medicine at all. It was social rehabilitation. But the social
Okay. Can you break that
rehabilitation,
down? What does social rehabilitation mean?
okay, it started because they believed that people with psychiatric problems shouldn't just be left in asylum, but instead they could actually use their hands to help them treat themselves. And it's one of the reasons that bore arts and craft. So occupational therapy actually started with an idea of people using their hands to do things they love, things they do every day. That is why you have activities of daily living. Things they do every day that makes them happy, that has meaning to them and gives them meaning in life. So they believe that by engaging in these things, they will become better, they will become sane, they can become productive, they can now sleep well, they can leave whatever problems they have, and they can start healing themselves by their hands or by the use of their hands. So occupational therapy actually started with a psychiatric foundation, which is social intervention basically. But because of evidence, because of the need, and because of the progress rates of occupational therapy interventions, it started spreading. So from psychiatry, we started having pediatrics, and later we started having neurosurgery, we started having every other thing, cardiovascular, and the likes. So now, a professionally trained occupational therapist is a combination of both medical and social foundational professional. So you have to go to the
Okay.
medical school, but in the medical school, you also have to attend the social part of medicine. And in the late 90s, the medical society actually started changing from medical social to social medical. So
Okay.
any occupational
This is
therapist,
interesting. What does that mean? Medical social to social medical.
yeah, because before a patient is just seen as a patient. They only come for treatment. They don't have rights. They can't say anything. The doctor just tells you,
Oh, I get
sleep
you.
on the bed. You are going to get injection. You are going to get this tablet. You are going to get this surgery. They don't have any say. But later they
True.
realized, although some selfish interest was there, but then they realized that who gives this money? Is this patient? So why would you make them secondary to the treatment they are paying for? So they had to come social. They have to bring more parents into board. They have to bring more external individuals who are ready to even reimburse the hospital. And that is why you can see that from the around 1980s upward, we started having lots of private hospitals, unlike before, where it was just the government or a church foundation and the likes. Now we have lots of private hospitals because it now became a socio-medical. The parent has the right, even the child, if the child has reached a stage, he or she has the right to say, this is the kind of treatment I want, along with
Mhm.
whatever ethical dilemmas you have to face in the process.
True. Wow.
So, so as I was saying, any occupational therapist must go to a medical school. In fact, let me make it very funny. If you complete your occupational therapy bachelor's in Nigeria, till you get to your fourth year or your 400 level, you, MBBS, dentistry, pharmacy, and pharmacology, you are all going to be in the same class. And I remember one of my senior is actually the head of the surgical unit for the cadaver in OAU. But when we get to 400, they separate us. So the MBBS go to the MBBS department, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, but all of us are together. And if you look at the cadre of practice, we have the medical rehabilitation differently from every other people that tries to attach. So we have the physiotherapist is always regarded as the first in the cadre because, to be sincere, they are older than occupational therapists. They started around 70 or 80 years before us. So they are older than us. Then the next cadre is occupational therapy, then followed by rehabilitation nurse. Then we now have the rehabilitation psychologist. Then we have the chiropractor. then and so forth and so on like that.
Wow.
Then we have
Wow. Mr.
prophetic.
Latuji, you need to type out all of this after if the program has ended. This is quite enlightening for me, really, because I'm sorry to cut you. Please hold your thoughts. And as you speak, a lot of words are coming out. I'm like, we need to address this. When I introduced the topic for today, I said, look, in special education, we have what we call a multidisciplinary approach where we have different professionals coming in, to work with these children. I know we call them either related service provider or other service providers. That's what we special educators call you, because we are the one that work with them in the classroom. Now, in Nigeria, while you were speaking, you said we have the physiotherapist first, right? Did I get you
Yes,
right? And then we
yes,
now have the occupational therapist. Did I get that?
yes.
Now, before you go too far in what you're saying to us, I've seen situations whereby, and this is something that I'm sorry, Dami, I'm coming back to you. Dami, I'm coming back to you. But I wanted to just clear. Are you there? Dami, are you there?
I
Hello?
think she's joined. She's a bit freezing.
Okay. Okay. So in Nigeria, we understand that we are not we don't have enough professionals, and that's why I was asking you, why did you leave us? We need you. We'll get to that. But we don't have enough professionals. So we find out that we alternate the job description of a physical therapist for an OT, occupational therapist, or or physiotherapist. So you being in that field, explaining this to us, what would that look like if we are replacing the job of a physical therapist with the job of a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist? What are we doing wrong? What can we? I mean, do you get my question? How is that
Yes,
professionally
absolutely,
right? And
absolutely,
what is
absolutely.
that effect on the child we are providing services for?
All right. It's a question that has been asked for ages. What is the difference between OT and PT? What are the similarities and what do we offer same and differently? I totally understand. Okay, I'll break it down. Firstly, we need to respect the fact, like I told you before, they are older than us. And to be sincere, in major parts of the world, most occupational therapy settings is either started or referred by a physiotherapist. I'll come
Okay.
again. Most settings that occupational therapy has today is either referred or specified by a physiotherapist.
Hmm.
Now, that is because they understand the value of occupational therapy and what we do differently. Now, the second problem is there's this professional envy. I'll call it professional envy between physiotherapists and occupational therapists, because over the years, some people who have had opportunities with occupational therapists realize that we have a kind of special relationship with our treatment, along with how they function daily, which they don't get from the physiotherapist. So because of that, there was a year, a season where we had lots of referrals for occupational therapists and less for physiotherapists, and it became a lot of problem in different parts of the world. Now, we need to understand what major impact an occupational therapist give that is different from a physiotherapist. We both have our frameworks for practice. And for physiotherapists, their framework is majorly on exercises and aftercare. For example, medical
Okay.
aftercare. Immediately after surgery, sincerely, who do you need immediately after surgery? Most times is a physiotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the first hand, because now you need the strengthening of the muscles, or you need to help with some exercises to stretch some of this joint or to make it more mobile and the like. Now, in maintaining you after whatever exercise you might have gone through or the surgery, how do you now incorporate yourself back into the reality you were before the problem or the surgery or the illness? So I'll give an example. You are now done with your surgery. The physiotherapist is helping you to do the flexion and extension of your hand or using some electrical stimulation. You cannot take the electrical stimulation to your kitchen. You cannot take the electrical stimulation to switch off or to put on or put off your clothes. You cannot use electrical stimulation or the hands of a physiotherapist to comb your hair. And these are the things we do every day, which is under our framework, is called self-care. Self-care looks so stupid to people, but if you have a mere ulcer or gnash of your skin and putting in your clothes, you see the kind of difficulty it is. But people don't see it until they are truly injured. And that is why some people don't really recognize what occupational therapist does. But it is beyond just taking off your clothes. It is beyond just removing that button. There are lots of other accessory skills embedded before you can even do that. And these are some of the principles or the approaches or the theories we firmly believe in, which many people, like you said, quack, don't know. They only see an occupational therapist helping a child with botany. They only see an occupational therapist trying to help someone to comb the hair or tie the shoelace or write in class. And they feel, oh, if an occupational therapist is doing it like this, then I can also do. But what are the principles guiding what you are trying to do? What are the expected outcomes? What is the progressive recovery duration? That is why I said there are lots of things when a professional occupational therapy documents what he or she is going to do. By mere reading it, even you as the injured patient or the person with the problem, you will know the outcome of your therapy before you even pay or start. And that is one of the ways that are different from the quacks. The quacks cannot tell you what is going to happen in 6 months because they don't know what to follow. They don't know the protocol to follow. And I'm happy Sister Dami also can share from this knowledge. See, any occupational therapist you see, I'm sorry, any occupational therapist you see, seeing a condition, the first thing that comes into our knowledge or the kind of intelligence we have is what frame of reference do I want to use? What approach do I want to use? What model of practice am I going to use? What techniques am I going to use? This alone, what standardized skills am I going to use? This is a natural intelligence we have as an occupational therapist. Ask the quack, what do you follow? That is it. So when you look at all those things, it is so in-depth and it is difficult to start explaining to people because they don't know and they don't want to know. To be very sincere, they don't want to know. I would love Sister Dami to actually continue from here so I don't take all the time.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure our audience and they have lots of questions for you because I was speaking with you earlier on, and I spoke with Damilola too. I said, look, on finding out with special needs, what we want to do is to shed light on everything that has to do with special needs. Maybe someone out there thinking, what's in special education? Really, I don't want to be a teacher, but I want to work with children with special needs. I don't want to be a behavior analyst. I want to work with children with special needs. So the question is, what do I do? How do I go about it? We'll go to that, but before that, Minola, shed more light on what you're saying. Damilola, we've been you were introducing yourself and you told us about what you're doing in low-income family. Thank you so much for what you do with low-income families. When it comes to special education or special needs, particularly disability, let me just do the white word, the bigger term, disability. We realize that, and research has shown that most individual in the people that really suffer the most when it comes to disability are those from the low-income family. So I really applaud you for the great job and a great initiative you're doing in that field, really. But let's go to the basics. Let's go to who are those that really need an occupational therapist. And I'm asking these questions because whenever I ask questions, I always say the reasons why I'm asking. I'm asking this question because like Ola has explained to us the difference between a physical therapist or a physiotherapist and an occupational therapist. You know, who are those individuals in the disability space that need occupational therapy? We understand that disability is wide, and special needs, like you and I know, particularly in America, are they categorized under IDEA as 13 disabilities. We know that sometimes children with autism do need it. Why do they need it? So when you answer your question, please tell us the reasons why, when you call that disability, why they need it, so that we won't just think everybody does, or because OT is needed, so every person with disability needs OT. Thank you.
All right. So first of all, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So first first of all, I'll define OT in my terms.
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember when I was in school, one of my lecturers, a particular lecturer, Mrs. Mama Kiyemi, we call her Mama Kiyemi, she defined OT, and after she defined OT that day during class, that definition stuck. It got that definition stuck in my brain so well that I was able to understand what I was going into, and I made that conscious decision to be in OT. She said that occupational therapy, now I'm paraphrasing, is the science of directing man's participation to the use of medically prescribed activities to help people that are sick, injured, to achieve independence. Now, we are using, don't forget the keywords, medically prescribed
Medically
activities. Now,
prescribed.
what are activities? Day-to-day activities, day-to-day occupations that we use, that are part of life.
Patrick in.
You use
Yes.
those day-to-day activities to help a sick or injured person back to health, to wholeness, to well-being. Now, beyond that, towards the end point is functional independence. Now, this means that beyond that sickness and the discharge from the hospital, this person is able to functionally operate, functionally live life. Now, let's break it down. You meet someone who let's assume um you meet a writer, an author, or probably okay, you meet a lawyer who got
Mm-hmm.
involved in an accident, and because he got involved in an accident, he lost some part of his speech. He had some issues with his speech area, and then some part of some, he lost speech. Let's assume he lost speech. Now, because he lost speech, he couldn't communicate, he couldn't speak again, or he can only murmur, but his words are not audible and all that. Don't
Mm-hmm.
forget, he's a lawyer, he's a barrister at law. This person goes to court, this person goes, represents people in the court of law. Now,
Yes.
as an occupational therapist, they now ask you, first of all, before they get to you as an occupational therapist, first of all, this man is a lawyer. Because of the accident, he won't be able to represent people in court anymore because he's lost his speech. Secondly, his occupation has been affected, his profession has been affected. Three, his mental health will get in the way if it's not paid attention. So imagine someone who goes to work every day and all of a sudden he got involved in an accident and he's not able to function as well as he used to be. And then to him, he has seen that his life has come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, such a person needs an occupational therapist
Mm-hmm.
because we need to nurse him back to functionality. I'm trying
Let
to
me have
be
a
as lay as possible now. We need to
Okay. Yeah.
nurse him back to functionality. Now, when he is in the hospital, the doctor will say, "Oh, I will refer you to an occupational therapist." Why should I refer? Why am I referring you to an occupational therapist? First of all, you've lost speech. You have your you have you have some. Now I'm trying to paint a picture, but I don't know if I'm really getting that picture. He's lost speech. He's lost some part of body movement. Probably he's now on a wheelchair. He's lost use of his lower extremities, depending on the accident. I'm trying to paint a picture in my head, so that I can explain the point. Now, the doctor will refer not to only to an occupational therapist, of course, to other professionals, but I'm bringing it down to only OT for now. So I'm explaining from that point. Now, he needs to be able to function. He needs to be able to go back to being living life. He needs to be able to be all again, be healthy again, physically, spiritually, mentally. Now an occupational therapist will come in. Now, so who needs an occupational therapist? Back to your question. Anybody who is sick, injured, and as a result, functionality has been affected.
Now, anybody who is sick, injured, based on the definition and functionality, has been affected. So, however the representation, referring to OT will be based on limitations, presentations, and indications for indications even after discharge. Now, as an occupational therapist, we work even when patients are in the hospital, when they are still, admitted in the hospital. However, a bulk of our job goes beyond or goes outside of the hospital. That is why you see, a child with cerebral palsy needs an occupational therapist because he needs to. We need to work with. Probably we need to work with gait. We need to work with self care needs, teach self care needs, help with functional use of the hand, upper extremities, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, finger dexterity. All of these things. We need to check the roles of this child. The occupation of a child is play. A child, how is play affected? How is schooling affected? How can we work with this child? Hope I'm not too vague. Hope I'm not going out too much.
You know what? I'm going to make it
So
easy on you.
yeah. So
Listen, Dami,
okay.
Damilola, what we're going to do is we're going to try and I'm going to narrow it down. I know, Mr. Allah was trying to say something when you were speaking. I don't want us to go too wide. I don't want us to go too wide in what we're speaking about. I want us to narrow it down to, so for example, let's speak like three categories of special needs under
Okay.
in Nigeria. Why how are people
Okay,
categorized? What
sorry,
are the
can I
various categories? So
intervene?
let's speak
Can I?
autism. Yes, I want you to speak, but I want you to narrow it down to autism, cerebral
Okay.
palsy, dyslexia, speech
Cerebral
and
palsy.
communication disorder. Why do we need you? Why does that child? Because remember that the sign for autism is different from the symptom or the way a person with autism will display that disability different from a person with cerebral palsy or dyslexia or communication disorder. Because we have parents here who are wondering, I don't have an OT and we don't have enough OT in Nigeria. Let the physiotherapist do the job. Now, after all, it's the same thing they're doing. And thank God that Mr. Ola had already cleared that and said physical therapy is different from, physiotherapy is different from occupational therapy. And I keep saying physical therapy because I know that there's also physical therapy also because I know that has to do with fine and gross motor. I mean, from the little I did with some professionals when I was teaching with kids, I had interaction with them, but I know that there's fine motor, there's gross motor. But in the question we're asking is that why do those individuals, let's even mention those four, that physical therapy, even children with intellectual disability, they do. Intellectual disability, children with dyslexia, children with autism, children with well,
Down syndrome
speech
and the
and
like.
communication disorders. Let's pick like three or four and say this is why we need that OT. This is why, because we cannot just say generalize, like that what you provide for child A will be different from what we provide for child B. So I wanted you to shed more light. We have several parents here saying, okay, my own child is autism, my child is speech in communication impairment. Why do I need an OT?
Okay.
So can you come in? Then Mr.
Yes.
Nike also wanted to shed
Okay.
more light. You
Ola,
could pick
Ola,
any
okay.
disadvantage and tell
Ola
us
wanted
why.
to say something. Let him go and then I'll move
Yeah,
on from there.
yeah.
All right. Okay. For the advantage of those that are listening and probably want more than the little conditions you have given out, I'll just give a summary of what Sister Dami is trying to talk about. Now, when you ask who needs an occupational therapist, like I said, we have
In
a
the field
framework.
of disability, in special
Yes,
education, in special needs.
yes. There are three things in life
Okay.
that occupational therapists believe in. And even from us and those that are listening now, because I love being very practical, I want us to ask ourselves that question or just check within ourselves if we are right or wrong. Three things. I've given one before: self-care, our ability to eat, to play with our friends, kids, socialize, and the likes, put on clothes. Self-care, that's the first one. I said we have three. First one is self-care. The second one is play or leisure. Play for children, leisure for
Yes.
adults. Anywhere in the world, leisure is very important, especially in advanced countries like here. We have people, in fact, outside of where I am now, people are having their leisure, their families are inside the pool and the likes. Then the third one
Send
is
us
work.
pictures.
Okay, probably maybe when I'm not talking, I can take the pictures. And then the third one is work or productivity. Now,
Hmm.
anybody in life, the
That's
quality
it.
of your life, according to occupational therapy, is measured by these three problems. Do you have problem with your self-care? Do you have
Mhm.
problem with your leisure as an adult or play as a child? And do you have problems with your work or productivity, which can be grouped as performance? Now, these three things are the criteria anytime we want to check the quality of living or life of whichever patient, whether you are special needs or you have cognitive or whatever disability you have. So once you can cross out these three, then you know where you're going. We have others which we called areas of occupation, but like you said, we want to just make it as simple as possible. Now, let us
Yes,
look now.
there's this, it's so broad that you could mix everything
Yeah.
all up
I have to
if
start
we do
writing
not
down so that I
streamline
can
it.
so short. Yes. Now,
Yes.
let's pick a child with autism using those three criterion or criteria I gave. A child with autism, what are the self-care skills expected of him or her that the brain cannot accept or cannot process again? Now, I would say it again. What are the self-care skills an autism child need that the brain cannot process again? That is why occupational therapist most times comes with what? Sensory processing interventions, which in
Okay.
sometimes is called sensory integration, because the brain cannot process
Integration.
self-care again. The brain cannot process, like Sister Dami said, functional independence in play. You can allow your child to go into the pool because you know the child can process everything
Ca-
within the environment and not drown.
Absolutely.
But now,
Yes.
a child with autism,
Yeah.
here is the
Ola.
security
Okay.
issue. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
You want to say
I was
something?
just going to mention that even, yes, I was going to say that even for play, there is a classification of play also that makes you know what exactly this child or aspect of play this child is
You
having
need help
difficulty
with.
in, and how to progress from there. I remember
Absolutely.
I'm saying
Yes.
this because quite a number of times we see kids who play, but then you see them play and they play all by themselves. They do not have or have not learned
The skills.
what group play is all about. They cannot group play. They only play when they are isolated. So yes, I agree with you. I was just going to buttress that even for play for kids, there is a classification. There is a way we would know. Anyway, this comes to when you have met with the professional
Yeah.
and then they assess this child and they say, okay, this is how we were coming in. This is from this point we're taking it up, and this is how, where we're going on. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. I was even going to ask
Yes.
that could that be
Yes.
a
Yes.
reason
Oh,
why some
okay.
children with autism have challenges with turn taking? Because it's like a back and forth. You're playing and you need someone to
Very,
give and take.
Yes.
That could be one of the
I'll,
reasons
let,
why they need
let me
an
true.
occupational
Very
therapist.
true.
let me add a little to what she just said now. What she's
Yeah.
trying to
Okay.
say rather. Now, there's something called the test of playfulness. I'm just trying to pick from play. And before a child play, in ABA they call it antecedent behavioral and the likes. Before a child plays, he's already playing inside. He's already calculating how he is going to play and plan the play before exhibiting it as a behavior or as an act. Now, the problem is that if okay, let me say what we don't see is that whatever the child might have been thinking about play or what he is about to exhibit could be totally abnormal to the fundamentals of independent safety play that is generally expected from children of his age. And that is why when they now
True.
exhibit it, you start asking, why is this child doing like this? Why
Or
is he
even
doing like
socially
because it's
acceptable
just like,
play.
yeah, it's like you want to eat. You know the kind of food you want to eat. You're already thinking about it. Oh, I want spicy something. I do this. And you got to the canteen and they don't have everything. You get disappointed. The same way it
Mm-hmm.
happens to the child. But I really don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go into that now. So, like I said earlier on, now, so as an occupational therapist, we want to see how is autism based on poor brain or sensory processing affecting the child's self-care. At what particular age is the child, and what self-care skills does the child is the child meant to have at that particular age. Now, but
Mm-hmm.
that skill is just a preface into the long-term future occupational therapy looks forward to. Now, for every
Mm-hmm.
self-care, there is a future responsibility attached to it, even when you are young. And this future responsibility is what we have in our approaches and we regard as performance. So already we have
Performances,
people.
yes.
I was once young. Everyone is once young. So we know that when you get, for example, 25 years, the way you dress is meant to be suitable for probably a man to actually acknowledge you, or for a female
Mm-hmm.
partner to also acknowledge you that, oh, you're looking good. Because that is the
Mm-hmm.
future responsibility of the self-care skills you are building when you are younger. That is
Right
why
Mm-hmm.
from
when you dress,
yes, childhood.
now, when we dress, our parents will say, no, this clothes is not good for this weather, or this clothes is this, and things like that. It is normal thing for us because it's part of self-care. So as we grow, now in occupational therapy, we want to see, is the way you are dressing, is it going to even affect the way you see or you adapt to environment or weather conditions or climate conditions 10 years to come? So
Wow.
if an occupational therapist is prescribing you to put on a sweater in a clinical setup, it is not just because you have to put on the clothes, but because probably there is air conditioning in that room and it is cold. And because it is a daily performance of having air condition around you or going out into a cold weather, and you need this, but the brain cannot process that because every sweater or sweatshirt you use itches the body, gives a tactile, inappropriate tactile sensation the child doesn't want to
Mm.
wear. So it is
Mm.
beyond the skill of putting on the clothes, but the future responsibility of how do you adapt your skin sensation to the weather climate in the next 10 years. And these are
Mm.
some of the things occupational therapists look into.
Mm.
So I think Mr. Dami can also continue
I,
from
I,
here
I
so
have
that
a
I don't end up.
question before you go on. You were speaking, and
Okay.
one of the things you said earlier on before we when we're talking about the difference between a physical therapist, a physiotherapist, and an occupational therapist, and you made us understand where what you do and where you need who, and in answering this question of who needs also just brings me to this question of, oh, that means for some reason anyone that portrays themselves to be an occupational therapist that is not professionally trained might be doing the child more harm than good. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just asking it, like from what you were speaking now, because most times I say to people, like when I watch, because when I was in my training, I was an international student, and my school did this thing about asking us. I mean, they always ask when you've gone out of the school, like you've moved on, they ask you a question, what did we do right? We know that in our country, like in America, things might be done differently from your part of the world. What can we do better and all that? So they expose us to a lot of practitioners, to the physical therapist, to the OT. And I realized that there were some things that the OT would do with the child that would be different from what the physical therapist would do with the child. And I used to question, like, I'm like, okay, so when this one comes in, he does this. When another person, when the OT comes, he does this, which means they understood what their job were and what to do. And I used to also think that it was an issue of fine motor and gross motor. But what you're saying to me is beyond buttoning and helping the child to wear clothes. He's also thinking ahead. Why are you wearing this coat under this condition? And you have to teach the child also that, look, when it's cold, this is what you should wear. And when it's hot, this is what you should wear. Is that what you're saying to us as part of the job of an OT?
Yes, absolutely. Like
Wow,
I said,
this is deep.
okay, let me shock you. I like this part of it. Let me shock you. Do you know that the you said something with fine motor skills, right? Do you know that how we pick things every day affects how we use our brain every day? How we pick things, as stupid as it looks, how we pick things. And in occupational therapy, there's something we call the functional use of hand, whereby this is how the hand is meant to be. Now, what I want to shock you about is I don't know if you have some children with Down syndrome in your place.
Yes, I
If
do.
you have a child with Down syndrome, tell a child with Down syndrome to use this functional grasp
I see
to
it.
hold
I
it
see it.
for 2 minutes. Don't tell him or her anything. Just tell him or her to hold it for two
It will
minutes.
drop.
Before
It will
two
drop.
minutes, it will drop.
It will drop.
Why? Because the
Muzzle
way
tone.
God created us, there's one thing I read sometime. It said, when the brain God created becomes damaged, it takes a man who understands the principle to fix it. And many quacks don't understand the principles of how these things work. Now, for example,
Of retraining
now
the
that I'm
brain.
saying, yes, now that I'm saying this, every day a child with Down syndrome holds something with the appropriate functional grasp. The chromosomes get improved every day. You don't
Yes.
even need a therapist or you need a doctor or need God now, but every day a child with Down syndrome holds something with the functional grasp. The chromosomes improve. It is abnormal before, right? It starts improving. And that is why you see, if you look at the advanced countries, majority of what they encapsulate children with Down syndrome is what? Hand-related tasks. Hand-related tasks. Even if they now grow to things like dancing, if you look back in those days, children with Down syndrome, they put them in choreography classes so that they use their hands, because whether you like it or not, in that performance, at least in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes or in 1 hour, you will find a way to do your hands like this in the process. But people do not understand the scientific principle that backs this because they are not true professionals. And that's why I said I want to shock
Let
you.
me add to
But
that. Okay, let
Yes.
me add to that. Now, going back into the principles of or into the understanding of Down syndrome, we know that to a large extent, children with Down syndrome come down with issues with muscle tone, which
Muscle tone.
affects
Yeah.
muscles. Yeah, it affects muscle strength and sensory information from the brain to the muscles to the motor function of their body parts. That which which if we go back into into late matter into studies, we'll see where Ola is coming from. When there is poor muscle tone, a child will not be able to grasp, a child will not be able to receive information adequately
Mhm.
and then transcend it
Yes. That's
into
why they look like it's
movements and
slow. Yeah. And their
activities.
speech and all
Very
that. Yeah.
true. Very true. Which is why when such a child sees an occupational therapist, we use a lot of activities, play activities, movement activities, holding, grasping, ball throwing, to improve strength, coordination, tone in such children. Now, I don't want us to go too far away. I want us to bring it back to the question you asked. Who needs occupational therapy? Now, Ola has indicated my thoughts, and then yes, I'll build on from there. He's explained it, and back to my definition. When we think about the definition I said, stuck with me since my lecturer taught me about, gave that definition in one of the classes while I was in school. You know, he's Ola has buttressed it, has been able to put it into, the performance complements that explains basically what it is: self-care, play and leisure, productivity. Now, when these three areas or any of these three areas are affected, then you need OT. I hope we've answered that question.
Yes,
So
you
that
have.
yeah,
we are, yeah,
And the
so
reason
we are,
I asked, like I
yes,
said,
so
is
we are, so yes, hold on,
okay,
Ola, please.
okay.
You were saying something, Lola.
and the reason I said that is
So
that
Lola, you're
because we
saying
have quite a
something.
lot of parents and individuals listening to us who are thinking cerebral palsy is different from Down syndrome. Down syndrome is different from dyslexia. So when you say OT, is it everybody that needs grip? Is it everybody that needs to fix their shirt? A child with dyslexia does not need to fix. Some of them might not need to learn how to put on their shirt. What do they need OT for specifically? But I won't want us to overflow that
Specifically,
because I'm
very
going to
true.
bring you guys up again. Your topic is very deep because in every disability we need you. So one of these days we'll come and talk about just Down syndrome and OT. Another we'll talk about dyslexia and OT. But generally, we've
Very,
answered the
I'm telling
question.
you, we might have to break it down into
Yeah, we are
one.
coming back
Now,
definitely. We're coming back.
yeah. So, for now, referring to that example you gave about a child with dyslexia, I remember when I was working as a special educator in a school on the island, I got a parent, one of my colleagues, a senior colleagues, reached out to me and said, "Oh, Daddy, this woman has a daughter is in year 3, whatever at that I can't remember." She said, "But she doesn't like to write. She doesn't write. She when it's time to write, she has an issue." And I'm like, "Hey, she doesn't want to write. Let her do video and explain her assignment on a video." Is it by you? I
Accommodate.
just immediately, I just accommodated it. I just gave accommodations. But the African mentality, it was an issue for the mother. So the mother had already gone to research, to read up. if my child is having this, which we will call dysgraphia, if my child
Yeah.
is having these issues, what do I do? What? And then she realized that, oh, occupational therapy for dysgraphia. So she spoke with this teacher who knew that I was I have my background in occupational therapy. So then this person said, well, let them allow her do video if that is the issue, or she might have to see an occupational. He said, are you not an occupational? Please go and be teaching this child at home, Joe. And that was how I picked up that child up. And not every, some afternoons, I go to I sit the child down and we walk through different activities. Now, I did not try to change this child, which is a point I would like to emphasize here. Sometimes when we have children presenting with some limitations and difficulties, the best approach is not to always want to remediate. Sometimes we need to
Mm-hmm.
give accommodations. We
Mm-hmm.
need to give compensations rather than trying to remediate all the time. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this child was in the school. She needs to, one way or the other, function in the school. Whilst we are addressing the problem with not wanting to write, let's provide some compensatory techniques that she can be
Yes.
functioning with while we are working on that. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
went to the teacher and I said, now this is an issue. I am a therapist by profession. However, because the teacher knows me, we all work in the same school. But then I would advise that rather than want her to, rather than you wanting her to write all the time, allow her, maybe out of 3 or 4 activities that requires writing, let her do one writing and give her opportunity to use a video to type. She doesn't. I think she likes typing, but it's just that holding of a pen, and then writing was the issue. So I said, let us give her other options. And the lady said, oh, beautiful. Oh, thank you, Dami. Okay. Oh, do you teach? I said, well, I just support at once in a while after school, just to help her.
Yeah.
So what was I doing? I was giving upper extremity activities, strengthening our proximal joint. Proximal joints are the big joints. Strengthening our proximal joints. And then we were doing a lot
Yes.
of and play a lot of things, and then I'll make her type a story for me. We started with storytelling. I helped her develop how to build stories in her mind, and then we talk about the stories. We do a video presentation of the stories, and then I said, okay, can you summarize the story we've done in a video? Can you summarize it in just a paragraph for me? We started with one paragraph, and then that was how we built, that interest to write gradually. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
why am I saying this?
Now that okay, go on. Finish what you're saying.
Okay. Okay.
Finish
So
what you're
why am
saying.
I saying this? Okay. So I was saying, so in essence, just like we have said, anyone who has issues with self-care, play and leisure, work and productivity needs occupational therapy, regardless of your diagnosis or presentation. Once you have issues in all of these performance areas, you need an occupational therapist.
Now
Now,
I'm bringing a
so
question
but
to
then
you
it
based on
now
what you
go
said.
down into okay.
Based on what you said, and you use
Okay,
that
go
word,
on.
and sometimes like when I speak with different professionals, there's a certain way we use words in Nigeria, and sometimes we use it, and for some reason it has been those words have been misunderstood. Now you said, and I like the fact that you started from being an OT, studying OT, occupational therapy, and then you went into special education, and then now you're working with individuals on vocation, right? That's what you're doing right now.
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes. That's
now
what
let
I'm
me
doing
just
right
ask you
now.
this
Yes.
question based on knowing the fact that we talk about a multidisciplinary approach. I'm talking about OT and other, other specialized courses, other specialized services under special education. We have occupational therapists, we have physical therapists, we have psychologists, we have special educators, we have general educators, we have the parent, we have the child, we have the psychologist, we have the speech therapist. You said the word. Somebody said when you were asking, the person was asking you what's happening with this child. The person said you are a therapist, and I see that word being used every time. I am a therapist. And when I hear people say that, I'm like, okay, people say, oh,
I know,
the
right?
child
I know where
therapist is
you're
working
going
with the
to.
child. The child
What
therapist says the child is
therapist
working,
are
the
you?
therapist is
Who
working with the
are
child.
you?
And I'm asking what therapist, and that's what I want you to clarify, because what we're having panel up with special is that we people have a way of making special education or everything that has to do with special education one thing. So I'm a therapist. Therefore, bring OT job on, I will do it. Bring speech therapist job on, I will do it. Bring the job of physical therapist, I will do it. I want you to try and shed a little bit of more light when you said as a therapist.
Okay, don't mind me. I'm going to
Oh,
be using a lot of experiences to explain. I remember sometime and a brother-in-law, I call him brother-in-law, is my in-law, my younger sister's husband. He's a medical doctor. I remember sometime he reached out to me on WhatsApp. He said, "Dami, I have a friend. The daughter, it looks like she has some issues. She looks like a child with needs, but I do not know. The parents are saying this child has a lot of speech problems. The child, I think the child is about 7, but the girl is not talking. This and this and oh, so how can you help?" I said, first of all, if it is speech, I'm not a speech therapist. I know who I am. But before I can say I want to do anything, then this child will do an assessment. Then we will be able to separate the needs of this child. Assessment cannot be overemphasized. A lot of times, before we know what direction to go, we need to do assessment. It gives us the focus and direction on how to address any issue. Now, back to the question. Why do people want to always do that? I would not say I know exactly why people do that. But then, as a professional, first thing, you must be true to yourself and be true to your skill. What you cannot do, you cannot do. I remember the last program we had on OT Up Sport, and when we were going to be creating, when they asked me, so what do we put as your role? I said, I'm a disability management specialist and the director of cases. They said, but you're an occupational therapist. I said, yes, I'm an occupational therapist. But then I am not practicing occupational therapy in Nigeria because I am not in Nigeria. And the person said, but Dami, you're a first president of OT, and we are doing this and this.
thank you.
You just have to be true to yourself. It's no news that everybody just wants to make money, and they feel special needs is a field where a lucrative field where you get a lot of parents you can bamboozle, and then they will pay you, and then you just do anything. Just like you and I we're talking about in the morning, how that a child with CP, they say when that child starts showing behavioral issues, they pin the child down. And I'm saying that that could be maybe from that person saw someone giving deep pressure to a child with autism who had sensory issues or throwing tantrums because of some sensory overload and all that, and he picked that from there. But once you see a child with special needs, and the child is doing something that is behavior that is socially unacceptable, showing behavior that you just have to pin them down. So you just have to be true to yourself as a professional. Know who you are and stick to your definition of roles. You understand? There are some things that, even as I call myself a professional or or a specialist and all that, I try not to use the word expert for myself because I'm still learning and I keep learning all the time. People will say, "Oh, you're an expert." Well, that's your opinion. For me, I am a learner and I'm still learning. But then just be true. If not for yourself, for posterity's sake. Know what you are able to do, know what you're not. There is nothing called special therapist. You are something. There's a suffix. There is a prefix, pardon me. There's a prefix. It's either you're a speech therapist, you're an occupational therapist, you're a respiratory therapist. You have a prefix before your therapy or before your title as a therapist. There is something before that term. I saw an advert some time ago, and the person said, "I'm a special needs therapist," and I'm wondering, please, is there something called special needs therapist, Mrs. Lola Aneke? Do you have any title called special needs therapist? And
Special
I'm
needs
wondering,
therapist.
no, frankly, I had to screenshot the advert, and I'm like, I had to send to a couple of my friends. I said, please, is this, or am I missing something? Maybe I still need to go and read more. Is there something called special needs therapy? That is, and It was a program in Nigeria, and I'm like, parents would come on board, and then they just start mixing different things, different approaches. They
Yes.
pick from they pick an approach in OT, they pick an approach in physio, they pick an approach, a technique, teaching technique in special education. They just bring everything together, and they are confusing the children, confusing the parents. Another side to that question, to me, answering that question is parents should not be too relaxed. And this I was sharing with you this morning when we are talking. Parents should not be too relaxed. You need to learn along the way as a parent. If you can come on Facebook to see what's going on in the world, you can go on Google and research about your child's disability or your child's needs. So that when a therapist comes to you, I remember when I was still an occupational therapy assistant, and I was working with a child in Aja at that time. When I met the parent for the reason the mother allowed me work with that child was my disposition and my courage. Before I started working with that child at all, I created I did documentation. I did an assessment with them. We documented it. I gave them a time frame for interim assessment because we need to be able to measure what we are doing. I gave them tentative dates for interim assessments. Oh, that means okay. After 6 months, we would assess these that we have been doing. What have we achieved so far? Do we need to upgrade our treatment modalities, or do we need to downgrade? Or implementation? How are we implementing it? What strategies are we using? Do we need to change strategies? Do we need to change approaches? And the mother said, for this is one of the reasons why she was confident that I knew what I was doing. You just have to be true to yourself as a professional. And as a parent, you cannot just be relaxed because you're paying somebody for 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 to work with your child, and then you feel that is it. I'm sorry, they will leave your child worse than they've left the child. You have to be on top of the game as a parent. Learn along the way. When I'm getting an OT, what is this person working on? How long are we doing what we are doing? When do we
Why are we doing
assess again, reevaluate? When are we reevaluating? How are we measuring progress? How are we tackling? How are we tracking our progress with this child? When we are able to put all of these things, in a timeline or in document, there is blue and white to run with, and success will definitely come
absolutely?
because you are
Wow.
accountable.
Thank you.
Accountability. If you don't want to be, parents will force you to be accountable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Damilola. Let me go back to Prof. Mr.
I'm still
Ola, I'm
learning.
calling you Prof
So
because it's in the making. Don't worry, from doctorate to get to the professorship. So you said something when you were trying to talk about occupational therapy. You said if a professionally trained occupational therapy. There are a lot of individuals who are listening to us and saying, I want to do the right thing. I don't know how to go about it. What how do people get to be occupational therapists right from after SSC? What are the various schools you can apply to? What should they look out for? How many years does it take? Because people are okay. Now we know that this is the right. How do we go about it? How do we become professionals as if we want to be occupational therapists?
all right. I think someone also asked me this question. I think from 3 weeks ago, when she said, "Okay, now I'm done with my school. I want to become an OT," and I was like, "It's not a 1 month course." And she said, "But some people do it for 3 months and things like that." Well,
Ah,
in Nigeria presently, yeah, people do it for 3 months now, unbelievably. Okay, so in Nigeria now, we have 3 confirmed schools where you can actually get educated or trained to become an occupational therapist. And I think we have a fourth one and a fifth one, which are not yet thoroughly recognized, but we have 3 thoroughly recognized ones. The first occupational therapy school in West Africa, not just in Nigeria, is Federal School of Occupational Therapy, currently in Oshodi. 90% of occupational therapists in Nigeria now went to that school. Is the fact, at least till today, 90% of all of us went to that school. So if you are seeing an occupational
Can you say the name
therapist,
of the school again, please? School of
Federal School
Occupational
of Occupational Therapy, Oshodi,
Oshodi.
FSOT.
So Federal School of
So if you
Occupational
see
Therapy, Oshodi. Yes.
anyone
You
I
can
think
go
I'll
on
still come back
Facebook.
to
You will
that.
see it on Facebook.
Yes. It is under Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba. But then the second one is Obafemi Awolowo University. They have occupational therapy there. You can do your bachelor's there, 5 years. But in Federal School of Occupational Therapy, is 3 years. You get your diploma and become an occupational therapy assistant. But if you go to Obafemi Awolowo University, you get your bachelor's and you become a bachelor's in medical rehabilitation with specialty in occupational therapy. Then you have another diploma school in Benin, University of Benin Teaching Hospital Occupational Therapy. You have that UBTHOT. They have the School of Occupational Therapists in University of Benin. So you do your 3 years there also and you get your diploma. These are the currently available educational institutions in Nigeria. Any other one, I don't know. It's not recognized.
I like the
Now,
way I'm not there.
no, I'm not there.
However,
But having said that, thank you.
Ola,
Yeah.
now building up on what Ola said, for the diploma schools, because the profession is fast growing, and nowhere in the world do we have OT still as a diploma profession. You know, it's yes. So it's kind of a lot of times, even as a professional, it belittles your expertise or your knowledge when people say, "Oh, OT diploma, okay," But then there are opportunities to build up from it. Those are for the diploma colleges or schools. There are a place where you build foundation. You build foundation, and then you aspire to get your degree in OT and then your master's in OT, which is what quite a number of us do. We finished from FSOT and then we proceeded to India to do a bachelor's degree in OT, which at that time was the viable option at that time. But thank God IFE is there. IFE graduates we have quite a number of
And that's a BSc. If
graduates
I
from,
offers BSc, right?
yes,
Yes.
it's a BSc in medical rehabilitation, and then you major in OT. So those for personally for me, I encourage people, if they say they are not able to enter into IFE, or they had already entered the diploma schools, the federal schools of occupational therapies in therapy in Lagos or in Benin. Aspire to improve on yourself, to gain more, and to be a part of the rest of the world. So yes, there are opportunities
I
for growth
think I
beyond the
think
diploma.
everyone seems to speak the same language.
Yeah.
Mm.
I just want to add
Yeah, so
something to that.
basically that's
Based on the discussion we had this afternoon, when you said that you said something regarding this quackery and how can we like probably get to know that this person is a quack and the likes. So I actually wrote some few things down, and I'm sure that Sister Damilola can also be a testimony to this. When you meet anyone who calls him or herself an occupational therapist, there are some few tentative questions you can ask them. And, and by the time you meet three
Thank you.
people, if you have two true occupational therapists, at least those two would have similar responses. One, you can actually ask them under which organization do they enroll with, or who gives them their practical license or practicing license. It is called MRT, Medical Rehabilitation Therapist Board of Nigeria. That is the only board that licenses occupational therapy in Nigeria. Ask them. Now, I know that some of them don't have the license, including myself. I don't have the license because I don't practice in Nigeria. But some of them may
Yeah.
truly not have this license. If they don't have the license, tell them to give you the contact of any executive of the Association of Occupational Therapists in Nigeria. Even though it's still a growing association,
yes,
we have
true.
called Occupational Therapy Association of Nigeria, OTAN. So you meet the occupational therapist,
OTAN.
tell the occupational therapist, give me the contact, or maybe the president or the vice president or whatever of this person. Since you don't have the license, and if the person cannot
Or
give you
better still,
because we
Ola,
have a group.
sorry for interrupting you, Ola. Sorry for interrupting you, Ola. If parents
Okay.
feel it could be rude, or if people think it could be route asking for the contact of somebody, the contact of somebody. Once you get the name of this occupational therapy assistant who want, or an occupational therapist who wants to work with your child or any member of your family or your students, your learners, whether in the school or outside of school, you could make your background check. Here in America, before you get any job, they will do a background check on you.
Hmm?
You could do
Absolutely.
you could make your background check.
But that's
Do
a bit
a
tough in
background check.
Nigeria.
It's,
Go
No,
online.
it's tough
Damilola,
in Nigeria.
Damilola,
Oh no!
that's a bit tough in Nigeria. I
Oh
want
no! I
Ola to
understand what
finish.
you're saying. Okay. I understand what you're saying.
Leave
I
Ola
can stop
finish.
Ola
It's
there
very
because
practical.
sometimes if I interrupted Ola because sometimes it could come off wrong to a therapist and you feel, oh, are you now questioning my knowledge or my certificate? As a as a parent, it is in your within your jurisdiction to go beyond. Oh, reach up any other person you've met or any parent. Any parent that has any other child with special needs. Oh, do you know anybody with this name? Or do you know any OTs that I can talk to? And then you ask questions. You just do a mini check. You just ask one or two people, and they say, "Oh yeah, we know the person." There is no way with the way OT is in Nigeria now. We to a large extent we know ourselves, not all of, but at least to a good extent. I was saying this, we know ourselves. So you could just do a little questioning here and there, and then you get your findings basically. So you won't have to be out. You won't have to say, because you're not, because the president does not know you, or the OT executives do not know you, then I do not. Just one or two checks. I remember some time ago I saw an advert for someone who was parading, who called herself an occupational therapist, and I didn't bother to ask anybody initially. I went onto all social media platforms and I was checking out her profile. Nowhere on the profile did I see where she stated what school she finished from, what school of OT she finished from. Every of her educational background, how she went to one university in Nigeria, how she did one course somewhere, how she did some professional development somewhere, but nothing on her educational background in OT. So how are you an occupational therapist? And then
You
before
know,
you know it, I put the picture up on the WhatsApp group, and please, do you know this person? Do you know who this person is? This person is calling herself an occupational therapist. Do we know this person? It was a topic of the deliberation, however. So yes, a background check like that, go on social media platforms. If you're an occupational therapist, you would have included it in at least one of your profile. I'm just
Yes,
saying. All right.
I totally agree. The
Ola, I
easiest
want
one
you to
is
finish what you're saying. Finish what you're saying as to
okay.
what can be done. You were saying, okay, these are the various schools you can go to. The parent could
Yeah.
actually ask where they got a certification form, or what organization they belong, what body they belong to. What else? I want you to finish, and then we'll face the reality of what we're going through in Nigeria. It's sometimes when I first go back to Nigeria, I wanted everything to be the way it was in the US where I was coming from and all that. But I realized
I
that
know,
nothing
right?
will be done. It's not that way, but we can actually create something to
Mm,
fit into our system. But before I go into that, I want Ola to finish. You are in Cyprus, you are in US. It's easy to say because things are working. It is. And
true.
I'm not condoning unprofessionalism. I'm not. But what are the things we can do? And that's where I want Ola to finish, and then we can come up with possible way, because
That,
a lot of people are looking at you on this show and thinking, how can I have the contact of this lady? Can she walk me through? Can she mentor me? This man, and that's why we are finding up with special needs. What can we do? Ola, finish up and let's
okay.
address what we can do.
All right. So that I'm actually sincerely, I'm not even talking from the international context now. I'm talking purely as a Nigerian, and these are just like she said, the background checkups you can actually do. It is easy as just saying, okay, let us see your CV, and your CV should bring some of the names of the school I have mentioned. If any
Yes,
of those
thank you for
school
that.
names is not there, then you studied abroad. That is as
Simple,
simple as it is.
yeah.
So we can just
Mm,
go as simple as that. Like we know ourselves. So if you know some occupational therapists that are actually on ground, just ask them, do you know this person? Even if the occupational therapist doesn't know, we would
There will be
find a
somebody
link
that knows somebody.
and the likes. Then, like I told you, the sincerity of our practice makes it very open to everybody to have an idea of what we are going to have as end product. Like Dami said, she did the documentation and the likes. When you speak to an occupational therapist, in 5 minutes, you will know you are talking to an occupational therapist. It's so easy. You will
Tell
know you
us
are
the
talking to
tips. In 5 minutes, tell us the tips. What are we looking at?
okay. Now, like I told you, any condition or problem you find yourself as an occupational therapist, there's a natural intelligence that follows us. Anyway, even when you finish school today, you have not even treated any patient really with your hand. You need to know the frame of reference you are using. You need to know the model you are using, the approach, the techniques, and the standardized scale. See, these 5 things, you are an OT, even my student. If I just ask you and you cannot give me these things, you
And
cannot go to
projected
the
outcomes.
next one. Talk more of a professional. This is not, it is just the natural intelligence you say. So when you meet an occupational therapist and you're asking him frame of reference, in fact, in 2-3 minutes, you get wowed. Like, oh, you do this, you do that, and things like that. So that natural intelligence is something you should always look for in an occupational therapist. That is it. Now, okay, the other thing I said is a long-term plan. I told you that one of the problems we have in Nigeria is when parents meet occupational therapists in court, they just want to ask, when is my child going to get recover? And they want it in
Mm-hmm.
1 month or 2 months. So they put a professional pressure in terms of expectations. But the truth is, an occupational therapist
Professional
can
praise.
set a long-term plan for you. And the long term is not 2 years or 3 years. It's just between 5 months and 6 months, which you can now reevaluate depending on the
Yes.
severity of the problem you are faced with or the condition you are trying to treat. And so if you have that 5 to 6 month plan, all this natural intelligence I told you is going to come naturally. Then you said something about if people who are not autis treat children or adults with special needs, there's something called therapist indicted problems. And that is, there are
Can you say
even
that again? Say that again, therapist.
therapist indicted problems. The problem we
Yes.
cause patient
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes.
Now, what happens is this, because majority of these conditions are long-term conditions. They cannot recover in 2, 3, 4, 5 months per se, unlike when you have malaria or headache or maybe a surgical something. So because of that, many people hide under this disguise of the child will progress, the child will do this, the child will do that. And maybe so, and they hide on that all people are not the same. So because people are not the same, in 3 months, no progress. In 4 months, it is a lie. The biggest lie you can ever hear is after 3 months of working with a child, there's no progress. It's impossible. That is why we have evidence. There are scales that gives you what you should expect. This is not that the child is recovering. It is just expectation. The child has not even gotten
Expectation.
to the stage where the parents can appreciate. But everything you
Yes.
do has an expectation, an evidential expectation. You pick up your phone, if it's an automatic phone, once you put your hand, it shows something. You are not using the phone yet, but it brings the light, shows that this phone still has battery.
I'm
It's
going to
as
work.
simple as. So when you are working with a child or an adult in 2 months, what are your expectations based on the evidences of people who are better than
Yes.
you, who have done what you are just about to start? So it is a question I realize many parents don't ask. What are your expectations? You cannot have the
Mm.
perfect therapy, but you always have your expectations. So in 1 month, we are not saying the child is going to get LD or recover, but what should we expect in 1 month? What are the traces that we are truly paying for the services you are giving? There are traces. I've worked with a child before, and it took 1 year and 1 month for the child to be able to stand up for 5 seconds. If I tell you the child, you will know the woman. But it took 1 year and 1 month. But every month, I tell the mother, this is what we are expecting. This is what we are expecting. And I tell them, this is not from my brain. This is from what other people have done. And this is the standardized scale
Evidence
they've used.
based.
And this is expectations. So they can, the parents I work with know what they are going to expect in 2 months' time. Because it is not my brain. This is not me working. This is what other people have worked on, saw evidence, and been scattered all over or shared all over the world. And we have this information in our hands if you have gone to the school. You can ask even a diploma holder in occupational therapist would have a minimum of like 30 standard assessment skills. So who are you as an occupational therapist who have probably have degrees or whatever, and you say you cannot tentatively give an idea of what parents should expect? That is it. So what I'm saying now is expectation is different from recovery. What if you meet an OT and he or she cannot tell you what you should expect in 1, 2, or 3 months after the assessment he or she has done? Forget it. The person is not an OT. I don't care what the person is. He's not an OT. It's like a teacher, and you are telling me at the end of the term what should my child know, and I'm telling you all child are not the same. No, the child must know normal arithmetic, times table, maybe 2 times 1. If it's 2, we are going to end. If the child improves or progress well, then we can go to 4 times. It is what you can trace, and that is just what I want to say there.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Also,
Thank you so much. Yes.
buttressing Ola. Yeah. Also, buttressing what Ola has said. To a large extent, I agree with him. To a very very large extent. There is you that now having the expectations doesn't mean that the the child will totally
Must.
recover and
Yes.
there won't be any
Yes.
problems. However, no matter how minute, no matter how
Yes.
tiny it is, you will know you are in the right direction. If after 3 months
True.
and it then looks like things are not working, then that means we should reevaluate our strategies, our approaches. Are we using the right approach? Do we need to change things, or do we need to downgrade our treatment modalities or upgrade, or so it gives you. That's why interim assessment for me, I believe so well in interim evaluations. You have to reevaluate after working with a child with 3 months. Ask again, this and these areas, these are the weaknesses. These are our short term. And whenever an OT is creating a plan, we have a short term and a long term plan.
Long-term goal.
A long term
Everyone
plan.
should.
Let me
No,
let me
the
chip in
goals.
one thing.
Hold on, Ola,
Yes,
let me not lose my thought.
yes.
Now, the short
Okay.
term and the long term goal. The short term goals are something what you will achieve, in the first few weeks of starting therapy. The long term could take longer. However, these goals are based on the areas of need that you have assessed, that you have come to see. Now, when we say that a child has poor oral muscles,
Oral motto.
poor facial
Aromatic.
muscles,
So,
poor facial muscles, or motor weaknesses and all that. And you want to give activity so that this child, you want to build this child's muscle tone on the facial muscles and all that. And you want to give activities towards this. The endpoint, maybe the endpoint is for the child to be able to blow or blow things or swallow or do whatever endpoint. Let's assume the endpoint is for that to be able to blow and swallow. I want to give activities. Now, in the next 4 months, the child may not be able to blow as with such capacity as you expect. However, you would notice that the strength is coming back because the child can now make movements with the muscles. The muscles are responding to therapy, to intervention, to your treatment, and thereby strength is coming. The child is able to bloat out the cheek and then take it back. These are things that you would, and no matter how minute, you will see progress. But what if a child for 1 year, 10 years, and you say that this child is not making progress at all, then we should ask you, what exactly are your plans? What have you been doing?
Okay. There's
wow.
one other thing I want to chip in. I'm sorry. It just came to my mind. When we were
Yeah,
in
please
India,
share.
I remember this. When you meet an occupational therapist in India, one of the first few questions they are going to ask you is, what are the occupational therapy textbooks you know? As stupid as it is. So when you see people graduates from India in OT come to Nigeria, all of us, we come with textbook names. I'm not joking. So because our textbooks are not so free, they are not so free. It's either someone buys it and you get it from the person, or you get it from the college library, or you do the photocopy or Xerox, like we used to call it. So one of the first things they used to ask. I remember when I wanted to get a job in India, and the man said, "What textbooks are you going to use for the pediatric treatment?" He was simply asking for Jenkins Smith. And as simple as it is, many people, if you are not an occupational therapist and I tell you Jenkins Smith, you don't know what it means. It is as simple as that. So you could actually ask them, okay, so in your practice, what are the textbooks? You may not even ask them because they need it. You just want to know, what textbook would you
What
refer
are
me to
textbooks
read
I
about my
can
child?
read to read?
About my child. Ask them. If it's in psychiatry, ask them. We have Rosemary. If it's in pediatric, ask them. We have Jenkins. If it's in physical dysfunction, we have Pedretti. So each of the condition we treat have their major occupational therapy textbook. So even if you forget everything, by the time you remember, this orthopedic patient, you know, Natarajan is there. Everyone knows. It's like that. So now,
As much as we
if you
also have cerebral palsy, there is nobody who would say, "Oh, you don't know what NDT, neurodevelopmental technique is in CP, and you are an occupational therapist, and you don't know what NDT is." How? How are you? And you want to work with it? So yes, to a large extent, approaches and all that. Parents can just ask questions like, "So, what
Yeah,
treatment strategies are you using?" If that is how late they want to go, what treatment
yeah.
strategies are you going to be using? What are the
Mm-hmm.
what do I as a parent participate in? How do I work with you and all that? From all of your questionings, yes, you will know to a large extent who the
Okay.
well-trained ones are.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you, Dami. But I still have us. I want us to bring it back home. Like I said earlier
Okay.
on, I am not condoning all professionalism. I'm not condoning people just parading themselves at what they are not. And but at the same time, let's look at different factors. Now you said there are three schools in Nigeria offering the course right now. We also have the issue, the general issue everybody faces. Not everybody can even go to India, that we know. So finance is
True.
also a challenge. Now, there's something that when I talk about special education and all that, and I'm a training partner. My organization is a training partner with some international body in the US. And what I saw, what
Yes.
made me do that is that I realized that, and I wanted to say this earlier on. I've spoken to different professionals, psychologists, physiotherapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and they all say to us, they said to me that the first degree is like a foundational skills. When it comes to this specialization,
Mm.
this field, the first degree is like you are learning the foundation. For you to now say, I am a professional, that's what they said to me anyway. You have to be maybe on your master's level and then take it further to doctorate. I'm not saying about that to be doctors but that skill, the foundational skills, is just a BSc holder, diploma holder. We're not talking it down, but it doesn't make you, like you said, learning is continuous. It's a continuum. You have to keep learning, researching. Things change by time and all of that. But having known that and the challenges we have in Nigeria, financial challenges, not enough professional, not enough schools to educate us in this field. And I'll give my own example saying that, look, I realized that when I tell the people I'm a special educator, they look at you as a special educator in Nigeria. Oh, what school did you? Is it Uni Just? Is it Uni Ben? Is it Uni UI? And I'm like, no. And then when I speak, and I speak to those who are probably BSc level, and I hear the things they tell them, and I hear what I was taught, there's a difference. There is a difference, and I'm not talking anybody down. There's actually a difference, considering even the fact that I'm on the master's level. Do you understand? But
Mm.
this are
True.
not isn't accessible to a lot of people, really. What ways can we? And I know I think about that way. I said, how about issue? And I was going to give an example of what my organization is doing with the international body. So what we do is we train people. We have like different kind of courses. We have 3 month courses. We have the foundational courses. We have courses that we keep doing on and on. Because some people say, when I do it for 3 months, will that make me? I said no. This is just like an overview of what you need to know while you're getting ready for a bigger thing. And as you're there, you can learn on dyslexia, you can learn on after doing your 3 month course, the foundational course, and then you keep going on. And then we get the certification done with the international body that let us know, okay, this is what we do, and this is what you're doing, and then you keep adding up and adding up. Okay. Now we have those challenges in Nigeria also. Looking at the schools we have that are not so we have enough schools, and a lot of people might want to, or people are here that say, look, I want, but I cannot go to Lagos. And I'm saying this because our job involves hands-on. You have to particularize it. So OT is not the kind of job that you say, okay, no, just do it online, or just find somebody to mentor you. But while we're
Mm,
waiting to do that, what can we do? You are a professional and you're also a lecturer. Damilola, you're a professional. What can we do? Our own indigenous land, what can we do to help this individual, to hold their hands, to mentor them, not perpetually, but okay, this is what you want to do. These are the ways I can help you while you're waiting to save money to go to school. But you cannot go out there and say you're a professional. What can we do? Let's look at let's look at this problem and how can we solve it in our little ways. You, I, Damilola, Ola, Lola, what can we do with these individuals who are looking to, but they don't have the means yet?
Okay.
okay.
Trish,
Should I go
okay.
first?
Ladies first.
All right. So now I totally agree with you. I agree with you, and I see the path you're coming from. However, professional growth and in development is a personal decision. Now, I have a couple of ladies that I mentor, and every time we get to chat like this or we get to sit together like this, I tell them, I say, see, you should never get to a point where you will feel you are all knowing and you are not growing. You
Mm-hmm.
are asking us, how can we help these people? How can we pull ourselves up? You have to first of all make up your mind to grow. Make up your mind to grow and make moves towards growth. I don't leave my house and be looking for you to come and help you. You will reach out. I remember a time when I was gonna get a job. A time I was gonna get a job. I had already reached that. I didn't even know the person was assuming that kind of a role in the organization I was applying to. But after reading her profile, after reading our profile on LinkedIn, I reached out to her. I said, I would like to learn from you. I would like to do this. See, just last week, I saw one of my big bosses here at work. Here, I just after we had a meeting with our CEO, and then I reached out, and then I suggested something during the meeting, and then he was like, "Oh, beautiful." And I went on LinkedIn, I read his profile, and I closed it. I went back to bed. The next morning, he sent me a connect message, and I told him, I said, I would like to learn from you. That is the heart I want to learn. Growth is personal. Reach out to people, collaborate with people, work with people. Show that interest that you want to learn, you want to grow, and then we will all grow together. Nobody wants to outshine anybody. Nobody wants to be a master of all. I am a product of working with people. People have given me their wings to fly on. People they've given me their path to walk in. Same thing with every other person. Same thing with Ola. We all at some point had that personal decision to grow. So you will have to reach out, and then we will grow together. Forget about whether you are a diploma holder or you're a BSc holder or you're a master's holder. We are collaborating. We are working together. We have a cause. We have a focus, and we are all ready to do it together, regardless of our status. We are ready together in your little capacity, in that little thing that is committed into your hands. How well are you doing it? How
Mm,
truthful are you with it? How
mm,
accountable are you in that little thing you have with you?
mm,
When you can answer
mm,
these questions and you can be true to yourself and then seek growth, growth will come. Whether we like it or not, there
mm,
will always be people who will help you in your journey as a professional, or even as whatever capacity you're working in. There would always be people set in your path to work with you. But then pride, goes ahead before the fall. When you're not ready to work with people, when you're not ready to bring people on board, when you're not ready to stretch out, to reach out to people, oh, they'll think it doesn't matter. Come, let's do it together. Let's learn together. Someone reached out to me. The person said, "Oh, I would like to a teacher." She said, "I would like to learn about special needs." I said, "Well, are you willing to take the response? Are you willing to accept the responsibility of professional growth? it comes with sacrifice. It comes with you deliberately planning for it. You want to grow, but you're not willing to pay for training. You're not willing to register for professional development courses. How then do you want to grow? You want to go and over you want to go you want to go look you want to go intern with somebody for 2 months and then you don't start calling yourself a professional. That's a crooked way to it. No, you must be ready to go all the way out. You must be it might not you don't have, it doesn't mean that you have to travel abroad to study. But those little courses around, those they look little, but they are equipping, they equip you. Take them up, and when you take them up, put them as your badge. Put them. You don't have to call yourself anything. I personally, I don't even like to call myself anything. I'm just that Lola and period. But then sometimes it requires us to use our titles, which whenever I look at your title, I'm always like, hey, see Madame Lola, someone was saying on LinkedIn that when you see some people's titles, and then you see their profile on LinkedIn, you'll be asking yourself, please, what have I been doing all my life? But then that was just for the fun of it. But back to what we're saying. So yes, forget about titles. A lot of times people are too caught up on all of. They get intimidated by, I can because I'm a diploma holder, I can hold. I know an occupational therapist. She's a diploma holder, but every time I see a post on Facebook, they are inspiring. They are well thought through. Well targeted, and I like her post all the time. She's an OTA. I like her post all the time. And every encouragement I give out, if it's a thumbs up or I go into her messages and I leave, oh, well done, oh, well written, oh, that was succinctly put. We encourage ourselves, but then have the heart to learn and go out
Thank you.
towards it. Go
Thank
out
you,
towards it.
thank you, thank you. That sounds quite encouraging. Mr. Ola, do you have anything to add to that? Because I really want people to find help, really, on special needs.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what are the things can they reach out to you? How can we help them while they're trying to get the right diploma or degree? And even those that need professional development, or they just need you to hold their hands.
Well, I will just bring a bit from what Sister Damia has said and summarize some few things. One of the ethical dilemmas we have in occupational therapy is that when we teach people some of these skills, they go behind the way Nigeria is, they go behind your back and they start proclaiming to be, in quote. And sincerely, this is not just because it is Nigeria. I will give you a true story of what happened to us in India. So when the Occupational Therapy Association fought the medical body that they want occupational therapy to be compulsorily in all medical hospitals, private, whatever. Then, after some few years, they accepted. And in the survey, they realized that after 3 years of contract, the occupational therapists are either sacked or started getting paid less. After they've gotten all the skills, they've created a therapy environment or therapy room with all the needed tools and devices. Then they will tell them, okay, we don't have the money to pay you again, go. Then they will put in the nurses to make shift for the therapy programs or for the therapy, for the treatment. And after they found out, the occupational therapist found at this. And as I'm talking to you right now, from 2007 till now, just in the state I schooled alone, we have over 70 to 80 occupational therapy centers owned by occupational therapists because they got angry
Sure.
and
Yes, I
they
agree.
stopped teaching people. So this is one of the problems we have now. But even with that, one thing I believe we can actually do is, like she said, if people want to learn. But the question is, what exactly do they want to learn and why? Because in occupational therapy, we have some things called certifications and specialties. We have certifications and specialties. For you to become certified in a particular program or a particular technique or whatever, you need to first be an occupational therapist. That's it. But for specialty now, if you are a special need teacher or you're a special need educator, you can become specialized in assistive technology related to occupational therapy, or related to medical rehabilitation, or related to special education needs. You understand? With occupational therapy as an option. But we know you are a special needs educator. But for you to do that, someone like me cannot give you the training, because I also need to be certified and specialized in it. And it requires some attainable amount of hours. For example, if you want to do assistive technology now, you need 1,000 practical hours. So along with the exam you are going to do, so even if your exam is 1 hour exam, it is already calculated as part of your 1,000 hours. So these are some of the restrictions we have. You want to do, for example, one of the easiest one they advise people who work with children now in India before I left is kinesiotaping. Kinesiotaping is not even for occupational therapists, it's not even for physiotherapists, but it's for medical rehabilitation in general. And they advise do kinesiotaping because it is now becoming part of the first aid, especially when you are having children who is going for dance or maybe ballet dancing or athletics, or children with special needs going into maybe sports related activities in school. And they come down with maybe sprained knee or strained ankle and the likes. And you can use the kinesiotaping to actually reduce the potential pain they may have. And before I left India, I remember we had a conference, and you would not believe the amount of special needs educators we have. They are more than OT and physio combined. That is because they are directly dealing with these children in school every day. I'm not kidding you. We have over 1,000, and the OTs and physios all together, I think we are less than 300. The rest are special educators because they work with these children. They are the one that takes them for physical exercises or physical education. They are the one that the teacher takes them to the basketball team. But because we have an institution that can certify them from their own special education. So if we want to do something like that in Nigeria, we cannot come from the angle of occupational therapy. What are you specialized in first before we can ask, okay, do this, this is what we do, because it is not just about you can do it and it becomes a waste. For example, if we want to teach you how to do splinting for children with maybe restriction in their mobility, the mobility of their joints, or tightness or contractures, how are you going to use it? Because you're not in the clinical setup. But if you're a nurse or a clinical psychologist or a clinical social worker, then we can teach you that, because you see them, you can
Is
serve as a
relevant
first
to
aid. And it means you can now link up with other professionals in that area who can, to be sincere, who can now later help you. In India, it happens. We have lots of schools now who have incorporated occupational therapists into them. So they have a part of them which is a very small clinic, and they have a big school. So as the child is coming to school, 1 hour or 2 hours before the classes start becoming serious, you go to the occupational therapy session. Use 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Go back to the class. 45 minutes or 1 hour before the school is over, you go to the occupational therapy session. Then you still end up with your colleagues. And this is how, like she said, they've been collaborating to reach a better platform and things like that. So if we can maybe tailor our own ideas to this, then maybe we can get better.
Yeah, we have to think of something and we'll do that. Now we're supposed to round up in another 5 minutes. But there are two questions I have for you. I need you to answer it in less than 2 minutes, each of you. And then a parent asks a question. I want you to use another 1 or 2 minutes to answer that. I will be done for today. Now, two things. The first one, I think I'll direct it to Damilola. Damilola, one thing I like about your own specialization is that you went from OT to the special education, and then you're going to vocation, which shows that special education or disability is not just one. There's a lot. So a multi. You could have said, I'm an OT. Like, let me just look at a special educator. You have said, I'm an OT. I can work with children with vocation and all that. You actually did training for each of these. You got your certification, if I'm correct, and you did your proper training to
yes,
give.
true.
You didn't speak from those. Well, I'm an OT, so I can do special education. I'm an OT. I can do vocational training for children, and this is why I'm no. You actually stole it. And that's one thing I hear people say a lot. So somebody works with children with autism, and that's what they do, and that's what they're trained to do. And they go, I'm a special educator, or I work with children with special needs. I know these are terms, but I wanted to, because of what you have done, is it right for me to just be someone that is and especially someone that, let me use the word, well, you know how you do in Nigeria, a specialist in autism says, I'm a child, I'm a person that works with children with special needs. Or someone that is an OT now and working with that child in a school says, I'm a
A
special
special
needs
educator.
professional. I don't know what I'm going to say because I know that this is an individual thing. For you to say you are everything, which you are saying special needs or special, that means you are qualified to work with everything. So I want you to share a little bit of light
Mm.
because of who you are and what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. Now, when I was an occupational therapy assistant, I had my diploma. Yes, I won't lose it in saying it. I had my diploma in OT. When I was working at the school, I had professional development courses I had to go outside of the country to do, and I kept on doing even as a staff of the school. Now, working in vocational habilitation and all of that for young adults, I am undergoing trainings and I have undergone trainings. I did a couple of trainings at my place, of course, before even at my place of work, you have to be well versed in that regard. So yes, for every phase that you want to be, or for every phase you get to, you must be back to what I said earlier. You must be true to yourself. Can I actually call myself this? Can I actually do this? Now, being an with my background in OT, there is vocational rehabilitation in OT. There is a place of vocational training, vocational rehabilitation in OT, which gave me, which in a light sense I could have said, oh, that's given me a basis to go into vocational habilitation and rehabilitation for people with needs and all that. But that wasn't just it. I had extended beyond that. I remember recently at work, one of my bosses said I should bring up my CV, and then I went there and then I put it on the CV. I had done some trainings. I've done I've done some courses in OSHA. I don't know if you know OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the body. I've done trainings with them that that accredit organizations or factories or stores or building factories, basically, or construction sites, to employ people with disabilities or to employ anybody. Basic information. Now, you have done courses in cleaning management, janitorial services, so that I can teach, because I teach occupational skills and I teach work readiness for people with needs. So I am doing these courses myself so that I know what I am teaching, and I am able to say, yes, I can teach you this because I have done the course myself. So yes, a person who is working in a school as a facilitator or working with a child in a school, no, you don't have the right to call yourself a special educator. You are still the reason why the parents have employed you. However, you have a knowledge of this based on your certification to work with that person. If you want to go beyond that, then get the required information, get the required certification, get the required training, and then you'll be able to do that. However, if you cannot, just stick within what you were doing and just stay there. Just be accountable and be true. That's it. I think I've answered the
Thank you so
question. Did
much.
I?
Yes, thank you. We needed to put that out there because this is finding out with special needs, and you are the best person because you've moved from one thing to the other, and still, I mean, we needed to put that out there because a lot of people are waiting, they're asking questions, they're wondering, they're confused, and that's why we have that. Now, Mr. Ola, this question is to you, and then both of you have answered the second question that's on the screen right now. This question is to you. Knowing the technicality in OT, how are you able to practice telehealth or online services, telehealth or telepractice with children with OT at this time of social distancing? How is that possible? One,
Come
less than
again.
2 minutes,
Please.
please.
Come again, please. Come again, please.
I said, knowing the specialty of OT, how technical it is, and it has to do with touch and all of that. How have you been able to? I mean, I don't know if you're doing that, but how do you think it's possible for individuals to be able to, professionals to be able to practice telehealth or telepractice in this field at this moment of social distancing?
Funny, that was a training I just completed today.
Can you
All
answer
right.
that in like less than 2 minutes so we don't overshoot?
Okay. The thing is, you have to set the foundation for whatever you want to do, depending on the conditions and the technology you want to use. The easiest technology to use now is the television. That's the easiest thing you want to do. And you need to, whatever sensory problems you want to work with, or maybe intellectual problems you want to work with, or behavioral problem you want to work with, you need to get the technologies ready in your own place. And then you need to teach the parents who are going to be with the children when you want to do this tele-rehab or telemedicine and the likes. And do you want to do, there's something we call the synchronous and the asynchronous. Do you want to do it at the same time? That's synchronous. So as you are saying, okay, pick
Yeah,
this and drop
synchronized.
here, or wear this, then it's a synchronized telemedicine. Or you want to do asynchronized on where you do it, or you have a child do it, a child without autism, do it, then now show the video to the child with autism to now follow or model up with what he or she is saying. It may not even be that day, it may be 3 days later, and you can now put your time into it. That is how we do it here. So majorly, that is how we do it.
Thank you. That was so brief and straight to the point. Thank you. Now, the question by a parent, let's quickly read that question. It's going to show on the
Okay.
screen right away. And I want each of you to please contribute because the parent is asking a young lady living with Asperger.
It's
Gone again. A young lady living with Asperger has adapted very well to school work and household chores, but as challenges coordinating as self-care skills. She needs
Self-care
reminder to
skills.
brush her teeth, wash herself, and the likes. Please, Damilola or Ola, how can she be helped?
she need reminders.
Is
That
that
the
clear?
first
Is the
question.
question? You can actually read it. Can you see the question?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. She need
A
Yes, yes,
young
yes,
reminders.
lady
yes, yes.
living with Asperger's has
We
adapted
saw.
very well to.
Yes, we saw. What kind of
Okay.
reminders? And how old is she? A young lady. Okay. What kind of reminders to brush her teeth, wash
Well, I
herself,
think she
and
said she has a problem with brushing her teeth,
okay.
and yes, yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Well, I
okay.
would. Was Allah saying something?
Yeah. Let me. Should I go first or I should make it
Can we
ladies
answer
first?
this in 2 minutes because we're
No,
almost
no, no.
out
Whichever.
of time?
Okay. Okay. Let me just say something quickly. All right. So, well, based like Ola, just like Ola said, what kind of reminders? But then let's just bring it as simple as possible. If she needs reminders, then she needs reminders. There's nothing wrong with keeping the log of activities that should be done. Keep a schedule for this person. If it's an alarm schedule that reminds you, alarm will remind you and then will tell you what to do. Time to brush your teeth, time to comb your hair, time to wash your body. Oh, time to go out. Even as adults or even as individuals without needs or without disabilities, we still set reminders for ourselves. We said we use a stick notes. I personally, once I get to the office and I know I have a lot to do, I set sticky notes on my computer. I set sticky notes at the back of my work phone. As I'm moving around with my work phone, I am able to look at my sticky notes as okay, as I've done one, I tick it off. I tick it off. So if she needs reminders, she needs reminders. However, we can help her, we can provide these accommodations by getting her probably alarm reminders that would remind her per activity or per task so that she is able to then gradually we can then fade away this prompt over time she gets used to these activities because these are basically activities of daily living. We can now gradually fade off this prompt this verbal prompts and cues through alarms and all that, gradually phase them out. You can now phase out, maybe instead of giving her alarm every of the activity, you could give one first, no alarm for the second, then the third one. So she sees that okay, the first alarm has rang, the second one will not ring. You would have instructed that, oh, okay, so now the first alarm will ring at 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, the alarm will not tell you what to do, but it will ring. So you know that after brushing your teeth, it is now to have breakfast. So the first alarm will ring for brushing teeth and will tell you time to brush your teeth. Then the second alarm will just ring without reminder. The third alarm will ring with the verbal prompt. So gradually, like that, we will now fade it all out until she becomes conversant with all of these routines and able to function. All right, Ola, you want to say something?
You know, as a pure OT,
Thank you so
I
much.
will
Mr.
not.
Ola, you have
I'll
a
be
thing to
very
say in less
prompt.
than 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll say it very promptly. There's something called interest checklist. They can download it online. Tell them to download interest checklist. They can tick the interest, attach our interest to whatever reminders you want to attach to. Just make it like that. It makes it easier for her to do. Interest checklist, look at those things she's interested in, attach it to all those self-care needs. So if she likes doing this, attach it to this, do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ola. Thank you, Damilola. Thank you, everyone.
We
You
are
are
honored.
stayed with us for
We are
it's been
honored.
2 hours. Can you believe it? 2 hours. But I always ask a request of all my guests on the show. It is called signing up with special needs. So please, is it okay? Um, I know you have the links and you have my Facebook page. The video will be there. Could you please drop some of the vital points that you can remember, like special interest, what you just said right now, your interest, just put something like that.
Interest
And then just try and
checklist.
Checklist,
interact with
yeah.
some of our participants because they want to be sure that they can reach out to you. Most of them like, I want to, but I'm not sure the person will listen to me. So I always use my platform to say, look, they can be reached. As long as you show that yourself that you're actually willing to learn, they can actually be willing to also hold your hand. So please, I want you to please go back to some of those links. Just say something to somebody out there. Put them a few points and all that so they can feel free to actually relate it to you. And then we can take it to the next level. Thank you so much, Ola. Thank you so much, Damilola, for all your
Our
time, for
honor.
the knowledge
Thank you
shared,
too. Thank you
for
for
all that
having
you're
us.
doing.
We
I
shared
hope
and
you
we're
will come next
learning too.
time
I
because we
learned
still
a
have a
lot
lot to
too.
discuss. We do have a lot to discuss. So we'll bring you on to discuss about OT and Down syndrome, OT and dyslexia, so that people can go deeper, you know. So please oblige us your presence as we keep learning and finding help with special needs. This is it from us today, from Mr. Ola, from Mr. Damilola, from Lola. All of us have Ola Ola. There's something about Ola. This is what we
That's
have to say to you
okay.
today. And we look forward to having you next week again on Final with Specialists. And one of these days, Mr. Allah will be back and Mr. Aminola will be back to shed more light
Thank you,
on
Lola. Thank you so much for all
occupational
you do.
therapy.
I,
Thank
I
you
every
so
time
much.
I see your post, every
You're
time I
honored.
see you,
You're
I
honored.
appreciate all you do. And yes,
Thank
thank
Yes,
you
you.
on this
especially
platform.
our consistency. I think I need to
Thank
cheat on
you.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
It's
much.
now
It was
time to
great
say
seeing you.
goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Goodbye to
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thank
I
Yes.
appreciate
you.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.